Now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. In our lineup for today's package are reports on the state of security and development, as well as efforts being made by the federal government and private investors to address socio-economic deprivations, which have been identified as major drivers of insecurity in the Niger Delta. We kickstart with a report on the state of insecurity in the region, as submitted recently in Port Harcourt by the Niger Delta Dialogue, which is a coalition of non-governmental organizations working for the restoration of sustainable peace and development in Nigeria's oil-rich region. In the midst of perceived insecurity in the Niger Delta, the Maersk Line Stadelhorn, the largest container vessel to have visited Nigeria, recently berthed at the ONNE Seaport in Rivers State. Reactions to this epoch-making event is the focus of our next report. Next in our lineup is a progress report on the construction of Nigeria's first HYDROSKIMMING refinery in Bayelsa State. We will, in the course of the program, bring you an update on the state of abandoned projects awarded by the Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC in OGUTA local government area of Imo State. And finally, in today's package is a report on Senator Godswill Akpabio's mission to retool operations of the NDDC and transform the Niger Delta region in line with President Muhammadu Buhari's vision for the region. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back in just a moment. Don't go away.
Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, determined to make a difference.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. The Niger Delta has become rife with insecurity, which continues to threaten the region's socio-economic and political stability. This was the thrust of a report unveiled recently at a press conference by the Niger Delta Dialogue, a coalition of non-governmental organizations working for sustainable peace and development in the Niger Delta. Correspondent Tekena Miofori has details.
A coalition of non-governmental organizations under the aegis of the Niger Delta Dialogue recently undertook a study of the state of insecurity in the Niger Delta and came up with findings indicating an emergence of new security challenges in the region. The report, which is the outcome of close interactions with actors involved in violence, conflict and insecurity across the South-South geopolitical zone, has it that the degree of insecurity has expanded in recent times. According to the report, insecurity is fueled by widespread cases of kidnapping, armed robbery, oil theft, and bloody clashes among rival gangs across major oil-producing states of the Niger Delta.
In almost all the communities that we deal with within the region, we saw proliferation of cult groups, that constitutes very serious security threats, not only to the life of the people, but even our traditional governance space.
In their submission, authors of the report maintained that insecurity had impacted negatively on the socio-economic and political development of the Niger Delta. The report identified a prevailing violent political culture, depleting foreign direct investment, disruption of social life, and a resultant atmosphere of fear as manifestations of insecurity in the Niger Delta.
Governments should enforce and implement existing laws against criminality and illicit circulation of small arms and light weapons.
Persisting insecurity in the Niger Delta is in spite of a peace deal brokered under the Presidential Amnesty Program, which was introduced in 2009 by the government of late President Umaru Yar'Adua to end many years of armed conflict in the region. Implementation of the amnesty program had resulted in a ceasefire that was rather short-lived. In 2016, the peace process was truncated following resumption of hostilities. Consequently, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari resumed talks with stakeholders in the region, notably the Pan-Niger Delta Forum (PANDEF), which presented to the federal government a 16-point demand as precondition for lasting peace in the Niger Delta. With most of the demands left unaddressed till date, conveners of the Niger Delta Dialogue insist that the federal government has reneged on its promise to transform the beleaguered Niger Delta region. For them, what has been achieved so far only amounts to piece of the graveyard.
Insecurity is not just a problem in the north or the northeast. It's very much a problem in the Niger Delta. And just because the oil and gas continue to flow does not mean that things are peaceful here.
Until our communities, the government, the civil society speak against idolizing violent actors and settling them with contracts and all that, I think these issues we are discussing is not going to end.
To stem the ugly tide of insecurity in the Niger Delta, organizers of the Niger Delta Dialogue have appealed to the federal government to adopt a more collaborative security strategy to effectively combat crime in the region. The group also enjoins the government to address social injustice, which is at the heart of conflict in the Niger Delta. Considering that persisting insecurity amounts to a lose-lose situation for all parties to the conflict, community leaders in Nigeria's oil-rich region are also expected to take up active roles in peace building to foster reconciliation and social change in the Niger Delta.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Belema Oil Producing Limited, oil production and exploration company. Belema Oil, truly indigenous, world-class brand.
After years of neglect and relegation, the ONNE Seaport in Rivers State recently played host to MV Maersk Line Stadelhorn, the largest container vessel to have visited Nigeria throughout the country's maritime history. The 300-meter-long Maersk Line Stadelhorn, with a width of 48 meters and capable of providing employment for about 10,000 persons, had successfully berthed at the Federal Ocean Terminal (FOT) in ONNE, Rivers State, amidst fanfare. The epoch-making arrival of the Singaporean vessel, according to the Nigerian Ports Authority, was part of efforts to reposition the ONNE port, which is unarguably one of Nigeria's most endowed seaports that had suffered untold neglect before this time. In his reaction, President of River State Entrepreneurs and Investors Forum, Ibifiri Bob Manuel, described the recent development as the best thing to have happened to the local economy of River State and, by extension, the economic well-being of the country at large.
7 years back, we embarked on a research, around the seaports, a research that basically was focused on what was hindering the growth of our seaports, especially in River State and indeed the Niger Delta. In the case of River States, the authorities were very strong on the fact that the draft was very shallow. But we found out that the draft in Port Harcourt, especially in old Port Harcourt seaports and ONNE, were one of the best in the country. We realized there were bureaucratic issues around getting the seaports to work optimally. We're the south-south, we have the seaports because we're closest to the ocean, right? But the truth about it is the southeast even has the best potentials in this current status of the of the government. Because the southeast is the commerce hub of this country. I would seize the opportunity to commend the MPA for them to have been open enough to go back to readjust their positions.
For his part, Oke Onochukwu, a professor of economics at the University of Port Harcourt, considered the opening of the ONNE seaport to seagoing vessels as a step in the right direction to diversify Nigeria's economy. He, however, appeals to the federal government to open up other equally endowed seaports in the Niger Delta to fully harness the region's vast potentials for a flourishing maritime sector.
if this trend continues, where the vessel of this magnitude keep coming into, the South-South region, one basic thing is that it's going to generate employment. We will begin to go back to the olden days when things were good. And I will say that I will, support, the idea that we'll continue to have, this level of activities in our seaport. Because apart from generating employment, it will also generate revenue for government. Because those that work there, will pay tax. And apart from the direct employment, there are also indirect employment there. There are people who are going into clearing, and all that. So you see that the whole of that environment will be booming. We have Warri, we have Calabar, we have ONNE, we have Port Harcourt here. Government should, as a matter of urgency, improve the facilities in this wharf so that we'll, maximize the benefit coming up from this wharf.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Get to know the future. The future is ITEO.
And now, away from maritime issues. Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Temepri Silva, is optimistic that days of massive fuel importation into the country and proliferation of illegal refineries in the Niger Delta will soon be over. He made the observation recently during an inspection of ongoing construction of AZIKEL refinery, a multi-billion naira hydroskimming refinery project in Obuna, Bayelsa State. Correspondent Chika Bodozie has more.
In 2015, AZIKEL Petroleum, a subsidiary of AZIKEL Group, was granted license to build and operate a hydroskimming refinery in Bayelsa State. Having secured a breakthrough in business, the company acquired a vast space covering about 20 hectares of land and devised a strategy to develop the refinery in 2 phases, beginning with its onshore component. In just about 5 years, the 12,000-barrel hydroskimming refinery, first of its kind in the country, has become a reality, with its buildings, storage tanks and ancillary utilities already in place. For Chief Temepri Silva, AZIKEL Refinery has come at the right time to boost Nigeria's crude oil refining capacity and provide better opportunities for youths engaged in illegal crude refining activities in the Niger Delta.
The sight that I behold before me is quite inspiring. It is our chance now to jump on this boat, to develop local capacity, to be at the core of this industry, which is at the core of the economy of Nigeria.
After waiting anxiously for the federal government to fulfill its promise of establishing modular refineries across 6 states of the South-South geopolitical zones in the last 3 years, the establishment of AZIKEL Refinery comes as a huge relief for youths in the Niger Delta.
You can only imagine the number of employment that will be generated when this refinery is completed. The local capacity that will be developed, that I can see already being developed. Every thanks go to Mr. President for granting this license, and this is a wake-up call for the youths of Bayelsa State and the youths of the Niger Delta. It is this kind of industry that is required from our youths to develop the Niger Delta.
The multi-billion naira AZIKEL refinery project is at about 60% completion stage. When completed, it is expected to refine about 1.5 million liters of petrol per day. In addition to petrol, it will process other refined products that will be supplied to neighboring states in the Niger Delta and beyond.
It's a full-fledged refinery, meaning that it produces all the products that you can get from a very, very big refinery. So we have production of about 1.5 million liters of petrol, which is called PMS, every day. We produce 1 million liters of diesel every day, 250,000 liters of aviation fuel, which we use in powering aircrafts. Then we also have 20,000 heavy fuel. We are going to be sending refined product from Bayelsa to the rest of the South-South states to the rest of Nigeria. The sole purpose is being that we are bent on changing the curve. Nigeria is the 5th largest producer of crude oil in the world, but Nigeria is still the net importer of refined product into Nigeria. We have the mission and the objective that we must have sufficiency of refined product in Nigeria, and Nigeria will then begin to reversing that curve by being a net exporter of refined product as well as net exporter of crude oil to the rest of the world.
AZIKEL Refinery is clearly the product of innovation that has placed it far ahead of its peers to becoming the first ever hydroskimming refinery in the country. But for the lockdown imposed across national borders at the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in the first quarter of the year, the project would have been at a more advanced stage of its completion.
We have 2 sets of major contractors. We have McDermott, which is the process model contractor, and then we have the EPC contractor, which is Chemitech. Chemitech and the Nigerian staffs on site here are a total of about 370 persons working on site every day, working very aggressively to see that we're able to complete the refinery on schedule and on purpose.
In developing the offshore component of its refinery, AZIKEL Petroleum is in partnership with a United States-based firm to deliver and install equipment and train its workforce to effectively handle operations in due course. The emergence of AZIKEL Refinery as a key player in Nigeria's poorly managed downstream sector of the petroleum industry will, without a shadow of doubt, go a long way to address the many hiccups witnessed in the production and distribution of petroleum products across the Niger Delta region and other parts of the country.
Inside the Niger Delta,
AZIKEL Group, oil and gas, dredging, power and air transportation. AZIKEL Group, petroleum product sufficiency, energy sustainability and infrastructure development.
Some failed contracts awarded by the Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC for the construction of a hospital and bridge in Akabo and Enebuku communities in OGUTA local government area of Imo State is giving intended beneficiaries of the projects cause for worry. Consequently, they are calling on the NDDC to impress it on the erring contractors to return to site and complete the projects for their common good. Correspondent Lovely Ofigo tells us more.
What you're seeing now is the decade block work of a hospital project awarded for construction in Akabo community, OGUTA local government area of Imo State by the NDDC in 2009 and obviously abandoned by the contractor. The hospital, which was meant to serve Akabo community and neighboring villages, is sadly one of the many abandoned NDDC projects in Imo State.
For this hospital represents the entire OGUTA state constituency. And over the years, about that was 2009, we have made a lot of write-ups to NDDC commissioner over here. Up to now, there's nothing so far been done. And you can see the project already taken over by weeds. You see, we have criminals hiding out here from time to time, begin their operations.
In OGUTA local government area of Imo State are pockets of oil-producing communities that are largely underdeveloped. Sadly, most of the communities are littered with abandoned projects initiated by the NDDC to improve their lots. One of the many abandoned projects is a bridge in Enebuku community. Following variations in the original cost of the contract for construction of this bridge, it was re-evaluated to the tune of 1.2 billion naira. However, all efforts to get the contractor to complete the project have been unsuccessful.
The re-evaluation is 1.2 billion. And they should come out and tell us which of the projects they've completed in Imo State. Let them show us.
Imo State is one of the 9 oil-producing states that are under the purview of the NDDC. Since the commission commenced operation in 2001, oil-producing communities in the state have consistently alleged untold marginalization in the distribution of projects across the Niger Delta. Worried by the proliferation of abandoned projects in their communities, they are demanding proper investigation of NDDC projects initiated and executed over the years.
It's so embarrassing for those of us who come from NDDC area to hear about the colossal sums of money that are filtered away in the NDDC under one guise or the other.
Following several complaints about alleged corruption in the NDDC, President Muhammadu Buhari in September last year ordered a forensic audit of the commission from its inception in 2001 to 2019. The expectation is that the ongoing forensic audit of the NDDC will provide desired results and reposition the Commission in a better state to effectively intervene in the plight of backward oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta.
Inside the Niger Delta.
NDDC, established in the year 2000 to help develop Nigeria's Niger Delta region. After 2 decades, what is their scorecard?
The amount of money which the federal government is religiously allocating to NDDC, we would like to see the results on the ground.
They have been doing a lot in the last 19 years, but if they were doing quality projects, I'm sure that we would have seen so much on the ground.
What is the state of the NDDC project in your community? Tell us about it and we will report it. Send us an email to insidethenigerdelta@gmail.com or call us on 080-920-76444. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has appealed to Niger Deltans to throw their full weight behind the forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC), which is in place to compel the Commission to account for over 5 trillion naira it has received as statutory allocations since its inception in 2001. Senator Akpabio made the appeal while playing host to the River State chapter of the Petrol Station Owners Association recently in Abuja. Again, correspondent Chika Budozie tells us more.
The River State branch of Petrol Station Owners Association, led by its president Billy Harry, recently paid a courtesy visit to Senator Godswill Akpabio in Abuja. During the meeting, the group endorsed President Muhammadu Buhari's efforts at sanitizing the NDDC, as well as steps taken under his administration to complete the long-abandoned East-West Road reconstruction and expansion projects. After taking a critical assessment of President Buhari's response to the people's aspiration for development in the Niger Delta, the petroleum marketers passed a vote of confidence in his administration. They also commended Senator Akpabio on his role in the release recently of funds to complete sections 1 to 4 of the East-West Road reconstruction and expansion projects.
So in our Congress meeting in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, where about 800 petroleum marketers gathered, we resolved that I'll stand here to represent Rivers State petroleum marketers and Star petroleum marketers. We should put to you that we have passed a vote of confidence in your leadership.
The confidence that is passed on you, beyond the marketers, is the entire retail outlets in this country. As Niger Deltans, we stand by our own.
Senator Akpabio, in his response, thanked the Petrol Station Owners Association for endorsing President Buhari's effort at transforming the Niger Delta. He wondered why other groups in the region have failed to question the rationale behind the recent legislative probe of the NDDC under an interim management that has been in the saddle for only a few months throughout 19 years of operations at the NDDC.
Shortly after Mr. President ordered for the forensic audit of the NDDC, I was on NTA and I pointed out that as soon as this forensic audit commences, that hell will be let loose. You will hear petitions, you will hear shouts, you will hear accusations, you will hear what I may call, you will hear things you've never heard, false accusations, or in fact there will be orchestrated campaign of calumny. 5 months probe out of almost 20 years of existence. Why? Parliament has been in existence from 1999. What is really happening now?
At the meeting, Senator Godswill Akpabio assured his guests that with a background of efficient and effective service delivery, he has an unwavering commitment to change the current narrative in the Niger Delta. To make this happen, however, the former governor of Akwa Ibom State underscored the need for a paradigm shift in governance and other spheres of leadership in the Niger Delta.
In spite of all the noise and false accusations and all that Niger Deltans are with me and the Minister of Niger Delta, I give you a I'll be very glad to pass this message to the President.
At the recent meeting with Senator Akpabio, members of the Petrol Station Owners Association also acknowledged his contribution to accelerated completion of permanent headquarters of the NDDC in Port Harcourt from about 45% completion state when he assumed office as Minister of Niger Delta Affairs in August 2019 to its current state of completion. They would, however, want the minister to ensure speedy completion of work on the Eleme Junction and Trailer Park axis of the East-West Road where their businesses are located, and extend same efforts to the Oron-Calabar section of the road to ease business in neighboring Akwa Ibom and Cross River states.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And with that report, we'll draw the curtain on the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back same time, same station next week. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until next week, remember to always wash your hands, maintain proper hygiene, and keep safe social distance to avoid contracting the deadly coronavirus disease. I am Mamode Akugha. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.